Hello and welcome to Board Now's Cult Television Reviews, and on this video I will be returning to Glow Season 3. It's the third episode and it's called Dead Pollen. Dead pollen referring to the dead pollen in the air as Sam is playing tennis and suffering for more than one reason. So yeah, I'm back with it. This is another really interesting episode. A lot happening again, a lot of sort of smaller things bouncing between the characters. So I think you get the impression, obviously with this still only being 3 episodes, then it's sort of working its way up to maybe a bigger arc. But anyway, it's despite quite a lot going on, it's another tight little episode. It's good actually how it all links together thematically. So the theme of this episode is largely to do with women's bodies, I feel, and to do with their kind of anxieties over them and the changes and the various things and the pressures of them, the psychological pressures as a result. And I think I think thematically, I mean the show in general, but maybe this season more than any other, is about kind of roles that women are expected to play. And we see a number of different kind of roles and things happening with them in this episode. As I said, it does bounce a lot between the characters, but it all ties together quite neatly, I feel. So I'll start with Debbie and Ruth because they have somewhat of a breakthrough this episode. I mean, there's still been tension between them, and Debbie seems reluctant to fully forgive Ruth or to accept her back as a friend. And I mean, in this episode, Ruth is trying to be there and be a friend to Debbie again, and I think, trying to be quite light-hearted. So I mean, sort of at the start of the episode, the girls all go into a dance class, and this is Cherry's idea. So Cherry is being the kind of tough trainer, the drill sergeant. So I think, she feels then they've had enough time laying low and having fun in Vegas. So she's very much trying to keep them on their toes and trying to keep them fit. And it's good to see Sheila pop back up, and funny visual of her reading a book dressed in a wolf girl outfit while training in the gym. Classic Sheila, and there is a thing with her in this episode where she does stay in character, or she dresses in character. So that's a good touch. But yeah, the girls go off to this dance class which Cherry has organised, and obviously, they're not really into the idea at first, but they sort of grow on them, and we see them enjoying the class, and there's some nice little dance moves, and it's some well choreographed stuff. But Ruth, is being all enthusiastic about it and trying to bond with Debbie. And yeah, there still seems to be this reluctance from Debbie, and she sort of leaves the class abruptly. And yeah, that's sort of, obviously Ruth is really trying here, and she's still put out, and I'm not quite sure if Debbie is still holding a grudge, or if there's still this kind of difference in them, the different paths and the different attitudes towards these sorts of... I think it's all part maybe of Debbie having this new kind of idea as this ambitious career woman, whereas maybe Ruth is the slightly more casual, laid-back girl next door type, who I think we have seen a serious side to in terms of her passion for her character and the wrestling side of things. But yeah, at this point anyway, I think she's a bit more laid back than Debbie, and Debbie is trying to be this really gun-ho sort of businesswoman and really have ambition in that sense. And it's interesting because we do see Geena Davis's character pop up briefly in this episode again, and she, bumps into Debbie later on in like a stairwell, and yeah, she just kind of gives her advice and supports her, and is kind of there for her in a way. She sort of sees, or she thinks she sees, what Debbie is sort of going through and how conscious she is about being in a male sort of industry. And the Davis character, makes the comment about how, even though I'm not really into wrestling, I'm starting to get more into it, and I will be there for you. And I'm not sure if this is just a sort of a fake sort of speech or not, but I mean that could be something to watch, because obviously the Davis character is a promoter herself, and if Debbie has those sorts of ambitions or following a similar path, that could be quite interesting. But yeah, by the end of the episode, and I will say actually, the Geena Davis character is wearing this flamboyant 80s style outfit, and it's the sort of outfit you could only pull off in the 80s, really. I think in any other decade it would look totally out of place. But by the end of the episode, Ruth and Debbie seem to be back on track, their friendship. So there's a scene in, like, I can't remember, I think it's like the dressing room or something, and they're sort of alone. I mean, there's one other girl, but she's sort of sleeping, and I think this episode is really interesting for Ruth because we see her more liberated side and more the sexuality sort of coming out of her. She's doing these flirty sort of dances, and she's, kind of at one point, she sort of shows off her cleavage and she's dancing, and Debbie has a good line about, how it's, you're like a bad girl in a hat or something, which is a good line. And so they're starting, Debbie's slowly coming out of her shell and they're starting to bond a bit more. And then there's an awkward moment with Sam because he walks in when Ruth has her sort of breasts out, and it's kind of a good sort of, I think, growth for Sam, the fact that he feels nervous about this, and I think it goes back to him maybe, I mean, obviously he's attracted to Ruth and he was upfront about that in the last episode, but it maybe comes back to them having a bit of a father-daughter type relationship. Let's say that anyway. So there's still some awkward tension there. But yeah, things are starting to pick up for Debbie and Ruth. So they go and have essentially burgers together. They've sort of befriended, or Ruth has, like the sort of kitchen porters. So they go and they have burgers. They're made burgers by the kitchen porters, and then they have ice creams, and they're starting to bond, and it's a great scene actually because they sort of bond over Funny Girl, the movie with Barbra Streisand, the musical movie, and they both start singing the same song about it, which is absolutely, it's a brilliant moment because you really see this chemistry between them, and it's really sort of fitting, and they bond over this sort of movie. It's something like that brings them together. But yeah, Alison Brie really bringing it in this episode, really letting herself go, and as I said, the chemistry is there between the two, And I think they just must have had a blast filming that scene. They just seem to be letting rip, and it's just so natural and full on. And yeah, you can imagine them just having a great time filming the scene, and they really play off each other. So it's all good fun, and it builds their relationship. But then the episode does end on a sort of a darker note, because Debbie goes back to her hotel room and she's watching a video actually of her son playing. And obviously in the previous episode she asked, the father to keep her, to get an effing videotape, as she said, and so she can obviously keep abreast of that sort of thing. And so she watches the videotape, but then she sort of goes numb, and she actually forces herself to vomit, which is a turn I don't really see coming. So that's actually the end of the episode. So it does end on a down sort of note, and again, as I said, it ties everything in, and this thing about Debbie being body sort of conscious, image sort of conscious. I don't know if it's partly the stuff with Ruth, whether Ruth, who we've seen all this sexuality from and letting herself go in this episode, maybe that's unnerved Debbie a bit, because maybe she feels she can't compete with that, or just general pressures of a woman in this industry. But it does end, on a down note, but as I said, it links everything together thematically because of the female body and all the rest of it. And there's a couple of different examples in this episode. So another one is with Cherry, because her and her boyfriend Keef, who they have a cute little relationship. He's sort of waiting for her because she's obviously had a movie career and now she's on the road with the wrestling, and he very much wants to settle down and have a family, and it sort of comes out that she doesn't really. That sort of comes out later in the episode, and I think it partly comes out of because she's talking to the dance teacher, the one from earlier when they obviously went to the dance class, and the dance teacher sort of points out that she has to struggle year from year. She sort of has to. She's kind of sort of often passed over for work, or it's suggested that she really has to work hard to physically look her best and to perform to her best. Otherwise younger girls might get her sort of spot. And I mean, that's obviously a parallel to wrestling and sports and entertainment in a way, if you think of the movie industry. And I mean, the dance teacher is probably only she could be early 40s at a push, maybe later 30s, but obviously that's not old really now. And it's that thing about it being a double standard. If that was a man, then they're not judged so much when they get to that sort of age. So Cherry's had a conversation with her, so I think that is meant to be part of the motivation and part of the anxiety really later on. And she sort of she starts getting concerned about her body and about her future, and just saying, well, if I have a kid, how will I react physically and So she is concerned about that, and obviously at first Keef is very supportive, but then Cherry kind of points out that maybe she doesn't want a baby. She's not sure if it's for her, and that's when Keef obviously gets upset, because he's kind of, in his mind, and obviously he has sacrificed for her, and he does want a baby. You know, that's something he hoped for when they started the relationship. So he storms out of the room, and so I mean that's another interesting side to it, the fact that it's actually the man who sort of wants the baby more than the female. So reversing that side, which is interesting. And again, there's a couple of different things in the episode. I really like the Cherry stuff with Keef. I really like them as a couple. And again, you know, sort of having regular issues like a real couple would. We also get, and this is an interesting sort of plot twist, we get Melanie at the casino. She's with Jenny, and she's kind of hit on by this guy. They start flirting, and you know, really good looking guy, and the implication is then he thinks she's a prostitute and he wants to pay her for sex, and you know, Melanie goes along with it. She's sort of up for it. She's saying, well, great looking guy and he wants to pay me for sex, why wouldn't I? So she leaves Jenny in the casino. She sort of says, you know, don't come into the room, because they go back to her room. And yeah, they totally fooled me in this scene, because it actually turns out he's the prostitute, and the way it plays is really neat. I think it is played in a way that would totally wrong foot you. I mean, I even thought, is he gonna try something a bit out of place? I wasn't sure where it was going, to be honest, but I certainly didn't expect it to be then he was actually a prostitute, because the way it's played is really clever with the line, because he actually says, you know, I think $200 would be fair payment, don't you? And she smiles and said, yes, I think that would be fair. So the way the line reads is it's still kind of making you think that he thinks she's the prostitute, sort of thing. And again, it's that performance thing, you know, maybe acting up to that as you know, a wrestler. So another sort of performance in a way. So then when she finds out it's actually him who is the prostitute, the male prostitute. And again, you could say this episode is all about playing with gender roles, because obviously the fact that Keef is the one who wanted the baby in the relationship with Cherry, and now we're actually getting a male prostitute, which is, you know, probably in the 80s quite rare anyway. But yeah, he now, the prostitute now expects Melanie to give him $200 sort of thing. And she's obviously taken aback and it's like, you know, no way, I made a mistake. And in the end, he does sort of walk out, and yeah, it doesn't hold her to it, but it's obviously, yeah, an issue at first. So yeah, it's a nicely played sort of scene, and a twist, and it obviously a bit of egg on Melanie's face, and maybe she'll think in future. But it's always, they're always playing with these sort of roles and these characters. So yeah, I'm not sure if we'll see his character again, if there's going to be much more to that, or if it's just a one-off. And yeah, we'll see on that one. Also, we see more of Sheila. She goes to an acting class, and she goes with, I always forget the character's name, but it's the one played by Kira Stephen, aka Awesome Kong, so one of the real life wrestlers. But they both go to like an acting type class, like an improv, I think it's meant to be. And so again, that's, I think, their way of honing their skills, their dramatic sort of skills. And Sheila is again staying in her wolf girl outfit, so she's playing this scene with the wolf girl costume, and obviously the teacher is like, well, you're feral sort of thing. This is, and she says, well, the character's feral, I'm feral. Whatever she says, it's something like that. But obviously he thinks it's a bit odd because it's like this scene, and it's obviously got nothing to do with her wrestling character. But yeah, that was sort of a clever little comment on how, certain wrestlers really live their gimmick sort of thing. They really, I mean, in a way, Ric Flair's a bit like that. I suppose in a way his gimmick is kind of him but turned up a little bit sort of thing. It's not that really far removed. Whereas obviously certain characters, they're very cartoonish and unrealistic, so they're maybe not that similar to the characters. I mean, in the case of Sheila, it's like a wolf girl, so I mean, obviously that's not realistic, but it's, it's a goth type thing, so. But yeah, it's just, I think, making a comment on it because she stays in the costume throughout the episode, even though she's not wrestling, she's not performing. But yeah, she then storms out in a huff because obviously this like acting coach has sort of given her shit, for sort of dressing in that way when obviously the scene has nothing to do with it. And she says, I quit, and storms out. And then, the other girl, the Kira Stevens character, follows her, and she starts to struggle a bit. She has some issue, and Sheila's there to support her sort of thing. So again, sort of female solidarity in that. And it's nice to see Sheila again. She's another, I think, little gem of a character. And I suppose the other big plot is with Sam and also Bash. So they go for tennis. And again, we get these little interactions with Sam and Ruth, and there's quite a good line from Sam at the start of the episode because he's dressed for tennis. And Ruth, asks tennis, and Sam says, it's something like, no, I'm just dressed for breakfast as John fucking McEnroe or something. So Sam's still being kind of typical Sam, a bit of a sarcastic dick. But they go for tennis, him and Bash, and they're basically playing these two twins, or twins. I suppose you don't say these two twins, but actually the actors I've seen in something else. I can't think what. But anyway, they go for tennis with them, and they're these twins who have appeared in some sort of a show, so they're meant to be quite well known and kind of big shots, and so they're playing with them, and it's quite a light-hearted scene, and there's some funny dialogue in there, which is interesting because obviously the twins later in the episode turn out to be like these really sexist sort of douchebags, and they're kind of they're in the dressing rooms, and they're sort of suggesting then the girls should really play up their sexuality and show off their boobs, and they're just being asses. And again, this all ties in thematically because, again, it's this sexist sort of attitude, and this pressure on women performers that they have to show cleavage and they have to be sexualized to sort of to get ahead, sort of thing. And it's actually a well played scene and the arc of it, because Debbie sort of tells them where to get off, and I like that Sam is really grossed out by it as well, so he sort of calls them out on their bullshit. So it's a nice sort of change for Sam, a nice sort of growth for him. You can see it over the 3 seasons. But the tennis scene, we get Sam and Bash playing, and that's a fun little scene because Bash basically kicks Sam's ass. And Mark Maron, he just knocks it out the park again. I mean, he's just so entertaining with his deadpan delivery. And he does have the line of the episode, I think, where obviously he's being thrashed by Bash, and Bash is sort of really tearing it out, starting to dance and kind of dig the knife in, I guess. And so at one point Sam just says, "Fuck that, fuck you," and slams down the racket and storms off. And it's just the delivery from Maron, it's just so entertaining, sort of thing. But yeah, again, some interesting stuff going on with Sam in this episode. So I think it does sort of show that he is above that, and he is kind of one of the good guys, essentially, because he's nervous about walking in on Ruth, and then he's kind of he sees the twins for the sexist pigs than they are. But it's another really enjoyable episode with an interesting theme to it, all nicely tied together. I think each sort of plot has a part to play in it. It's sort of it does link together really nicely. So another good episode. That's episode 3 of the 3rd season, and again, we're building to another strong season, I feel. So if you've seen the episode, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll keep on top of these as much as I can. So hopefully there should be episode 4 up soon. But for now, thanks for watching. Good night.